Hi guys, we're going to continue looking at some of the most important phrasal verbs in English. If you didn't watch the first video, the first 10 phrasal verbs that I have chosen, make sure you have a look at that. We're going to look at another 10 phrasal verbs today that I think are really important. So let's start with number 11. Now, the phrasal verb get on is really important because it has a few different meanings. Last week we talked about using get on for moving onto or entering public transport. You get on a bus, you get on a train. Well, this definition, this meaning of get on is to have a good relationship with someone. For example, do you get on with your sister? Do you get on with your sister? Which means, do you have a good relationship with your sister? Number 12 is another phrasal verb which has a couple of meanings, and it's to take off, to take off. We use this, like we spoke about last week, to remove something. An item of clothing, for example, to take off your glasses, to take off a hat, to take off a jumper. But we can also use take off when describing what an aeroplane does when it goes from being on the ground into going into the air. This is called taking off, to take off. An example of this would be when you are on the plane and the air steward or the pilot says, "Please take your seats as we are about to take off." So take off is the moment you go from the ground into the air. And the opposite of that, when it goes from the air onto the ground, is to land. So it's not take on, it's just land. The next one is to get away with something, which means to avoid the consequences, to avoid punishment for something. For example, you might say, "He's always misbehaving, but he gets away with it because he's the youngest child." He's always misbehaving, but he gets away with it because he's the youngest child. He avoids any kind of punishment. Number 14 is to be put off by something. To be put off by something. And this means if something discourages you or stops you from doing something. An example of this is, imagine you're watching TV whilst you're eating dinner, and there's something on TV which has maybe a lot of blood, something that might be a bit too much whilst you're eating dinner. You might say, "Can we watch something different whilst we're eating, because this TV show about surgery is putting me off my dinner. It is putting me off my dinner." Number 15 is to catch up, to catch up. And this means to discuss the latest news. Often we catch up with friends. And an example of this is you can say, "It would be good to catch up next week if you are free." Number 16 is to give up, to give up. And this means that you admit that you have lost. You admit defeat and you accept defeat. It's quite common for people when they're trying to say something inspiring to say, never give up on your dreams. Never accept that you have failed. Never give up on your dreams. Number 17 is to find out about something. And this means to discover something. For example, what did he say when he found out about the affair? What did he say when he found out, when he discovered about the affair? Number 18 is to sort out, or to sort something out. And this means to deal or manage a problem. To deal with or manage a problem. And the example is, I might be 10 minutes late as I have a few things I need to sort out. I might be 10 minutes late because I have a few things I need to sort out. Number 19 is to get by. To get by. And this means to manage, to be able to do something, but often with some difficulty. An example of this is he earns just enough money to get by, to manage. And number 20, the final one, is to rule out. And this means to stop considering something to be a possibility. It's when you don't consider something to be a possibility anymore. An example of this is he refused to rule out running for president. So he didn't want to rule out the possibility of running for president. Okay, so that's numbers 11 through to 20. I hope you found that very useful, and I hope you start to use these phrasal verbs in your conversation. Remember, they are a really, really important part of English, and because probably in your language you don't have them, they are very difficult. So it's important to sit down, to study them, to try to write your own examples using these phrasal verbs. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you click subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, also click like. I always like that, and comment if you like. And I'll see you for another video next week.